Today is March 18th. Tomorrow changes everything. That's not a dramatic overstatement. That's the literal reality of where you are right now in this lunar cycle. Tomorrow, the Pisces new moon arrives, the cycle resets, and the window that has been open throughout this entire Mercury retrograde period, the window for completing, clearing, returning to unfinished things, and choosing consciously what you carry forward, closes. Not forever, not irreversibly, but it closes for this cycle. And what travels with you through that closing is what determines, in ways that are more concrete than most people realize, the quality and the direction of everything the new cycle is able to build. This is your last full day. And the question worth asking yourself, right now, before this day moves any further forward, is whether you have done what this period has been asking of you. Whether you have looked at what the retrograde has been returning to your attention. Whether you have been honest about what needs to be released, resolved, acknowledged, or finally acted upon before the new moon arrives tomorrow. Because today is not a waiting day. Today is a doing day. And the difference between people who arrive at a new moon having genuinely prepared for it and people who arrive at a new moon by default, carried there by the passage of time without any deliberate engagement with what the cycle was offering, is not a difference of cosmic favor. It is a difference of attention, of willingness, of choosing on the last day available to do the thing that has been asking to be done. So let's talk about what that thing is for you today. Before getting to the specific actions available to you in these final hours, it's worth understanding why today, March 18th, the day before the Pisces new moon, carries a quality that is different from any other day in this cycle. Because once you understand that, the urgency of using it well stops feeling like external pressure and starts feeling like an obvious response to a genuine opportunity. In the final hours before a new moon, the lunar cycle is at its most contracted. The light is gone from the sky. The energy that has been building, accumulating, stirring through the entire previous cycle is compressed into its smallest, most concentrated point. And that compression does something specific to the quality of the time. It intensifies everything that remains unresolved. The things that have been circling in the background of your awareness throughout this entire retrograde period. The conversation you've been avoiding, the decision you've been deferring, the feeling you've been managing rather than meeting, the truth you've been circling without landing on. All of it gets louder in these final hours. More insistent, more present, as if the cycle itself is making one last, clear announcement about what it has been trying to deliver before it turns. And Mercury is still retrograde, still operating with its returning, excavating motion, still generating the specific energetic conditions under which unfinished things press back into consciousness, under which people from the past make unexpected contact, under which hidden truths find their way to the surface at moments you didn't anticipate. Mercury stations direct tomorrow, around the same time the new moon arrives, which means today is the retrograde's final full day of operation. Whatever it has been building toward delivering, whatever it has been working its way through you toward showing you, is making its last attempt to reach you right now. In this day, in these hours, the convergence of these two things, the final compression of the balsamic lunar phase and the last full day of Mercury retrograde, makes March 18th one of the most energetically charged days of the entire year for conscious action. For doing deliberately what you've been moving toward doing throughout this entire period. For completing what the cycle has been asking you to complete. The first action available to you today, and the one that tends to have the most immediate and lasting impact on the energy you carry into the new cycle, is the resolution of a conversation that has been sitting unfinished. You know which conversation this is. You have probably known throughout this entire retrograde period. It's the one you've been rehearsing in your head without sending. The message you've drafted and deleted. The exchange you've been telling yourself you'll initiate when the timing is better, when you feel more ready, when you've figured out exactly what you want to say. And the timing hasn't gotten better, because you've been waiting for permission that was never going to come from anywhere except your own decision to speak. Today is the day to speak. And I want to be precise about what that means, because the temptation when you think about resolving an unfinished conversation is to imagine that resolution requires a perfect, complete, transformative exchange that settles everything. It rarely works that way, and expecting it to sets up conditions for inaction. You don't need the conversation to be perfect. You need it to be honest. You need to say the thing that has been unsaid, not the managed version, not the diplomatically constructed version that protects everyone from discomfort, but the actual thing. What you actually feel, what you actually need, what you actually wanted to say but didn't, or couldn't, or were afraid to. That honesty is what releases the energetic hold the unfinished conversation has been maintaining in your life. The loop that has been running, the mental replaying, the carrying, the background drain of keeping something unresolved while pretending it isn't, closes when the honest thing is finally said. The closing may not be the closing you hoped for. The response you receive may not be the response you wanted. But the energetic completion that comes from finally speaking the truth of something is yours regardless of how the other person responds. And arriving at tomorrow's new moon, having completed that conversation, having said the thing and released the holding, changes the foundation of everything the new cycle can build. If the conversation is with someone who is not available, or with someone where direct contact is not appropriate or safe, the completion can happen in other forms. A letter you write but don't send. An honest accounting you give to yourself out loud of what you actually feel and what you needed from that exchange and what you are choosing today to release. The important thing is the honesty and the deliberateness of the release. Say the true thing in whatever form is available to you, and then let the cycle take it. The second action is more internal and more demanding in a different way. It is the release of an emotional burden that has been traveling with you, possibly for the entire length of this retrograde, possibly for much longer, and that has been asking, with increasing insistence as this new moon approaches, to be put down. You may know exactly what this burden is. A resentment towards someone that you've maintained because releasing it felt like excusing what they did. A guilt about something in your own past that you've been carrying because releasing it felt like claiming you didn't deserve to feel it. A grief that you've been managing at a distance because letting yourself feel the full weight of it seemed like more than you could survive. A disappointment in a person, in a version of your life, in yourself, that you've converted into a general cynicism that feels safer than acknowledging the specific thing that hurt. These burdens are heavy in ways that become invisible through familiarity. You stop noticing the weight because you've been carrying it so long that the weight feels like you're normal, like just how it feels to be you. But the energy consumed in carrying them is real, and it is being diverted from everything else your life is trying to build. The action available to you today is not the elimination of the feeling. You cannot decide to stop feeling grief or resentment or guilt or disappointment, and trying to will yourself out of an emotion is not release, it's relocation. The action is something different and more specific. It is the act of consciously acknowledging the burden in full, without the protective softening of self-justification or rationalization, and then making a deliberate choice about whether you are willing to continue carrying it into the next cycle. That choice, and it is a genuine choice, not a performance of releasing something while actually holding on, is one of the most powerful things you can do on the day before a new moon. Because the Pisces new moon, when it arrives tomorrow, is offering a reset that reaches much deeper than the surface of your life. It is offering to initiate a genuine emotional renewal. But the depth of the renewal it can initiate is directly proportional to how much of the old you are willing to put down at the threshold. And the act of deliberately, consciously choosing to put something down today, not because you've fully resolved it, not because you've completely processed it, but because you are choosing to stop letting it determine what is possible for you, is the act that prepares the ground for what the new moon can plant. Name the burden today. Say it clearly to yourself. Acknowledge its full weight without minimizing it. And then make the choice deliberately and with full awareness of what you're choosing. I am not carrying this into the new cycle in the same form. I am choosing today to release my grip on this. Whatever I still need to process, I will process, but I will process it as someone who has made a conscious choice to stop being defined by it. That choice is today's action, and its impact on the energy you carry into tomorrow is more significant than you can probably anticipate until you've made it. The third action available to you today is the one most likely to feel deceptively simple, and is therefore the one most likely to be underestimated. It is the act of setting a clear, honest intention for the new cycle. Not a wish list, not a collection of hopeful statements about things you'd like to be different. An intention, singular, specific, and grounded in an honest understanding of where you actually are and what, from that real and honest place, you genuinely want to move toward. The reason this action matters as much as it does, and the reason today is the right day for it rather than tomorrow when the new moon arrives, is that setting an intention on the day before a new moon, in the final compression of the balsamic phase, with everything the previous cycle has stirred and surfaced still fully present, is setting an intention from a place of maximum honesty. Tomorrow, when the new cycle begins and the fresh start energy of the new moon creates its characteristic sense of possibility and new direction, there is a risk of setting intentions from hope rather than from truth. From the version of yourself you'd like to be rather than the version you actually are right now, standing at the threshold of this particular transition, having moved through everything this retrograde period has surfaced. Today, you cannot pretend you're further along than you are. The weight of what hasn't been resolved is still present. The clarity of what has been surfaced is still fresh. The honest accounting of where you actually stand, in your relationships, in your creative life, in your interior life, in the ongoing project of becoming who you are trying to become, is available to you with a precision that tomorrow's new beginning energy may actually obscure. So today, before the new moon arrives, ask yourself honestly, what do I actually want the new cycle to be about? Not what would sound good, not what seems appropriately ambitious, not what the best version of me should want. What is the real me, standing here today with full knowledge of everything this period has surfaced, actually want to orient toward? What quality of experience? What kind of relationship? What version of work or creativity or daily life? What degree of honesty in the most important areas? And then write it down or say it aloud or hold it in your awareness with the kind of deliberate clarity that transforms a vague wish into a genuine intention. One sentence, if you can, clear and direct and honest. Not decorated, not hedged. This is what I want the new cycle to be for. This is where I am pointing myself as the reset arrives. That intention, set today from a place of maximum honesty, goes into the new moon tomorrow like a seed going into prepared soil. And the Pisces new moon, which specializes in deep emotional and spiritual new beginnings, is extraordinarily receptive to seeds that were planted with genuine honesty rather than with hopeful decoration. The fourth action is the one that requires the most courage, and it is the one that the retrograde, in particular, has been most insistently working toward delivering you to. It is the act of recognizing something you have been avoiding and choosing today, on the last day before the cycle turns, to stop avoiding it. Throughout this Mercury retrograde period, there has been a specific truth circling your awareness that you have been successfully, if increasingly uncomfortably, not landing on directly. Something about a relationship, or a direction in your life, or a pattern in yourself, or a decision that has been waiting for your honest engagement for longer than you've been willing to acknowledge. The retrograde has been returning it to you in different forms, through the people who resurfaced, through the conversations that replayed, through the decisions that lost their sense of rightness, through the feelings that refused to stay managed. Each of those returns was the retrograde saying, "Here, look at this, this is what needs your attention." And maybe you have been looking, in your way, circling closer and closer to the center of it throughout this period. Or maybe you have been successfully maintaining a slight angle of approach that lets you acknowledge the orbit without ever quite landing in the middle of it. Either way, today is the day the orbit closes. Today is the day the retrograde makes its final pass. Today is the day the truth sitting at the center of everything this period has been circling is as accessible as it is going to be, and your willingness to look at it directly, clearly, without the softening of any protective story, is the last genuine action available to you before the new cycle begins. The question that gets you to the center of it is simple, and it works because it bypasses the elaborate self-justifications that the more general questions tend to trigger. The question is this: what is the thing I have known throughout this entire period that I have been unwilling to fully admit I know? Sit with that question genuinely, not for the answer you've been comfortable with, for the one that arrives before the editing begins, the one that lands in the chest before the mind gets to it, the one that, if you're honest, you've been aware of all along, because the retrograde has not been introducing new information. It has been returning old information to you until you were ready to receive it at the depth where it can actually be used. Whatever that thing is, whatever the honest, undefended, fully received answer to that question is, acknowledging it today clearly and deliberately is the action that completes the retrograde's work. It is the closing of the loop the retrograde has been working to close throughout this entire period. And closing it today, consciously, on your own terms, on the last day before the cycle turns, that is fundamentally different from having it closed for you by circumstances, in the next cycle, in a form and at a time you didn't choose. You have the option today to choose. Use it. Here is the thing about today that becomes visible only once you understand what it is. March 18th is the last day you will have with the particular quality of clarity and pressure and depth that this convergence of Mercury retrograde and the approaching Pisces new moon has been generating. After tomorrow, the energy shifts. The retrograde ends. The new cycle begins. The contracting, completing, truth-surfacing quality of this entire period gives way to the expanding, initiating energy of new beginning. And that expansion is genuinely good. The new cycle holds real potential. The Pisces new moon, once it arrives, offers one of the most profound fresh starts available in the entire lunar year. But fresh starts are only as transformative as the ground they're planted in. And the ground, your interior ground, the actual emotional and relational and psychological terrain of your life, is shaped by what you do in the hours before the beginning. By whether you arrived at the threshold having done the work or by default. By whether the cycle turns with things genuinely completed or with things merely deferred again into new circumstances. You have today, the whole of today, the actions available to you, the honest conversation, the conscious release, the genuine intention, the recognition of the avoided truth, are available right now, in this day, and the energy supporting them is stronger than it will be at almost any other point in the coming year. Because the balsamic darkness and the retrograde's final motion and the approaching depth of the Pisces new moon are all, simultaneously, pushing toward completion. Everything in the current cycle's energy is leaning toward the close, toward the finish, toward the honest, deliberate, conscious end that makes real new beginnings possible. The only question is whether you lean with it. Tomorrow the new moon arrives. Tomorrow the light begins to return. Tomorrow the new cycle opens its first page, and you begin writing whatever comes next. But today, you have the rarest thing available to any human being trying to build a life that actually feels like the one they meant to build. A specific, time-limited, energetically supported window for doing the honest, difficult, completion-oriented work that most people defer indefinitely. For actually closing the loops. For actually saying the things. For actually releasing the weights. For actually recognizing the truths that have been circling without landing. For arriving at the threshold of new beginning as a person who chose, deliberately and with full awareness, what to carry through it and what to leave behind. The people who use today well, who take at least one of these actions, honestly, and without the protective softening that turns action back into intention, those people will experience the Pisces new moon tomorrow differently. They will feel the reset in a register that goes deeper than the surface. They will carry something into the new cycle that most people don't carry into new beginnings. The genuine lightness of someone who has put something down. the clarity of someone who has spoken the honest thing, the directional certainty of someone who set their intention from real ground rather than from hope. That experience is available to you. It is available today. And the price of it is simply the willingness to stop deferring the thing that has been asking throughout this entire retrograde period for your honest and deliberate attention. Today is March 18th. Tomorrow the new moon arrives. And the most important thing you will do today, more important than anything else on your list, more consequential for the direction of the weeks and months ahead, is the honest action this period has been preparing you to take. You know what it is? The retrograde has been returning you to it for weeks. The approaching Pisces new moon has been deepening your access to it for days. And today, in the final full day before the cycle turns, all of that preparation has been building toward this single, available, genuinely powerful moment of choice. Do it today, before the new moon arrives, before the window closes, because the version of you that crosses tomorrow's threshold, having taken that action, is not the same version that entered this retrograde. And becoming that version, arriving at the new cycle genuinely changed by the honest work of the old one, is exactly what this entire period has been preparing you for. The day is here. The action is clear. The only thing left is the choosing.